Hello and welcome to Forrest.Chat SoapBox. In this episode, we're talking with Stephen Wells, and Stephen Wells is a candidate for as a councillor for the City of Busselton in the 2025 federal elections. Welcome to Forrest.Chat SoapBox, Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Stephen, oops. All right. First up, we'll do some introductions. Stephen, you live in Busselton?
I live around Busselton, yes, in one of the little suburbs nearby, in Broadwater, to be precise.
Okay, and how long have you been there?
Since 2021.
Righto. Okay, fantastic. Is there anything about you or your location that people should know? Anything more before we get into other questions about, what your elevator pitch is and so on?
No, it's I'm just living in the beautiful Shire of Busselton, and very, very happy here.
All right, fantastic. We'll get into it then. So the first thing, Stephen, is an opportunity for you to give us your elevator pitch about your campaign, I guess, your campaign areas that you're standing for.
There's very few sort of directly local issues that I'm standing for. I'm more standing as a way to highlight national politics at the local level and basically start the fight back against what I believe is a sinister agenda by globalist forces. And I've been advocating for a while that you can't just go straight into federal politics and take the country back. You need to start small. You need to get experience at the local level. But also at the local level, a lot of the international plans that get done in secret at the national and international level, they get actioned at the local council level. So, for example, the Smart Cities program, the 15-minute cities that people may have heard of happening overseas, we've got a similar thing being actioned in Busselton, the Smart Cities program. At the moment, it's fairly benign. It's not doing anything too egregious, but infrastructure is being placed and set up, which eventually the people who work for Busselton Council will basically just follow the rules that they've been told, and they will implement it. And most people won't even know it's going to happen until after it's happened. So my main area of concern for the local area is simply to highlight all of the secret treaties that get actioned at the local level, speak out against them, and do what I can to make sure that nothing is done that will negatively impact our freedoms in our local area.
And what sort of things are you happening now or seeing happen now that contribute to these plans for later on?
The main one locally that people will realise is the smart meters that are being put in. So this will eventually allow the power companies to turn off your power, your fridge, your devices when power is unavailable. And with the national scheme to try and put wind turbines into Geograph Bay, then that will be absolutely necessary in terms of stopping the grid from exploding. Wind turbines are notoriously intermittent and unreliable, and as our power supply becomes more unreliable, they will need a way to shut down devices from a central location. And so you can be boiling your tea and all of a sudden the power goes out and you go, why's my power gone out? And you go out and check all of your fuses and stuff, and you find out there's nothing wrong. And it turns out that you've been using too much power at the wrong time and they need to shut it down. And then, down the track, there are things happening in China in terms of social credit scores There's the digital ID program coming in. There's all kinds of things that can, and if we don't fight back, likely will be used to curtail your speech and use these things as a cudgel to basically keep you silent and stop you complaining. So if you complain against the government, then you will suddenly find that your credits for going somewhere, or your credits for buying meat, or your credits for your electricity dry up. So that is an agenda which is active. It's not yet implemented in Australia, but I see the warning signs, and I would like to start getting people into positions of authority, even if only at the local council level, so that we can start to push back against that sort of thing.
We have heard from Queensland government admitting that they had turned off people's air conditioners as one example. And a couple of years ago, 2023, I purchased a car. We're in the sales office, and the TV monitor there tracking all the movements was actually identifying every vehicle moving around in that yard. So it's surveillance cameras as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's how it starts. I mean, in England, there's been a big backlash against it, especially in London, with the, I think it's called ULEZ. Might be called something else. My memory for names is always not great, but they've had these cameras in London now, and if your car doesn't meet the newest environmental standard, then you basically get charged money every time you drive your car into the City of London. And of course, that means that only people who can afford newer cars can drive their cars in London. And there's been a lot of sort of vigilantism against those cameras, a lot of people smashing up the cameras and stuff. And I don't particularly want it to get to the stage in Australia where we've got vigilantes running around smashing up cameras, because they're in a dystopian nightmare. So yeah, it's better that we get on top of it now before all this sort of stuff gets implemented here in Australia.
And clearly you're quite aware of all those sorts of things coming through.
Yes, I mean, I've been sort of looking into all of the so-called conspiracy theories for about 12 years now. And yeah, I mean, I've thrown out obviously the more weird and wonderful and absurd ones. But you know, since COVID, you know, most of the things that I've been telling people that were going to happen have been happening. I wrote a book back in 2020, which I wrote between April and May, right when the lockdowns began, basically warning people of what was going to come. That, you know, it wasn't going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It was actually going to be 18 months to 2 years, and that had been pre-planned. That a vaccine mandate would come in, and all of this kind of stuff. So I've got a track record of being right about the things that I predict, and you know, and hopefully people will remember me from that time when I was speaking out in the breeder movement against the lockdowns and against the mandates, because I was one of the main speakers up in Perth, and then also spoke a couple of times down in Bunbury and in Yallingup. Back when the mandates were coming in. So hopefully people will remember that, you know, I don't go around shouting conspiracy theories like lizard people. I go around warning people of things that I know are going to come.
And a lot of those plans are already published even by the likes of the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's not as if they're... No, I'm looking at some, you know, dark web sort of thing. It's all out in plain sight. It's just most people don't look, and most people don't believe. So, you know, but it's there. They've told us what they were going to do. They've told us why they want to do it. And, you know, if you don't like what they're going to do, then the time to step up and say something about it and start getting people elected who can do something about it. That time is now.
All right, fantastic. Is there any more you want to say to add to your elevator pitch, so to speak?
Only that, one of the things that I've been most notorious for recently is also speaking out against another World Economic Forum and United Nations agenda, which is mass immigration and multiculturalism. So, I've been prominent for that. I get called a lot of names for that. I have embraced the names that they've given me because I'm just tired of being constantly called that name. And so I've eventually joined a group who are no longer ashamed of being called by that name. So that's there. It's out in the open. Last time I ran for council, all of the press and the media were trying to accuse me of trying to slip under the radar and not being known for being associated with people who call themselves National Socialists. Well, they can't accuse me of that this time. I didn't think it was relevant last time because I was literally advocating for local things. But if the press want to bring it up and slander me with it, then yeah, sure enough, out in the open, mask off. Say what you like about me, I don't particularly care anymore.
All right, fantastic. We'll move along then to the next thing. I guess in some ways you've answered some of this. What led you to choose to become a candidate?
Basically because nobody around me was stepping up. I did that 2 years ago, in the last election. And I was hoping that other people would run because I knew that I would be easily smeared by the media. But when not enough people did, I thought, well, whatever happens, happens, and whatever the media say, they say. I just need to do what's right. If other people are too afraid or too busy to do what needs to be done, then, I can't just sit back and do nothing. So I put my hand up, and 2 years later, I'm putting my hand up again.
So it's really a continuation of where you've been and what you're doing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I see myself, more qualified to be an activist than a politician. I don't particularly relish the prospect of the job, but I've done lots of jobs I don't like over my lifetime. At least this one has a chance of making some difference. So yeah, I much prefer just going on podcasts and warning people and going to doing activism and making a noise. It's a hell of a lot easier than sitting down in a room with lots of people you might not agree with and trying to negotiate things. But I mean, yeah, that just needs to be done. So I need to suck it up and get on with it.
That's it. You don't make a change unless you're in a position to make a change and you make the right noises.
Exactly. And whether you enjoy that sort of thing or not is kind of irrelevant. Everyone's got a duty to do. So this is me trying to do my duty.
Fantastic. All right, we'll move along to the next one. What is it that makes you a great candidate? I do have some elements that you might consider. That is current involvement with the council, or maybe particular skills in financial management or relationship building.
Yeah, don't know about any of those. I would just simply say I can't be bought. I can't be intimidated. I can't be shut up. Most of the time, I'm just going to let the people from the CEO down do their job, because they are the ones who actually run the council on a day-to-day basis. I'm just there to make sure that everything is above board, and I'm there to make sure that everyone stays honest. And I have a very, very impeccable record of speaking the truth to power and not being afraid of the consequences. And anybody who's followed me or watched anything that I've done over the last 5 years know that I will not be intimidated by bully boys in the government or bully boys in the police or bully boys in the financial sector or anywhere else. If something needs to be said, I will say it. I will not back down. If something needs to be done, I will do it. I will not be turned aside. You know, a bit more of that in politics, and maybe we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in.
Yes, so you're there as the fighter everybody wants on their side, is how you see that.
Yeah, I'm the one that they go, why can't somebody do something? And they go, oh, hang on, Steve will. he can't help himself. So yeah, that's me. And the more people tell me to shut up or sit down or go away, or if you don't do this, you know, we'll do this to you. The more I say, well, up yours. I'm going to do it anyway, and you can do what you like to me. I don't care.
All right, fantastic. That's a brave stance. There's very few people who have that courage of their convictions. All right, we'll move along to the next one then. I've got some scenarios here, and looking to see or what you see as council's role and what would drive your voting position in amongst these. So I've got 4 of them there. These are pretty typical things that come up in council discussions. This first one's happening in the Shire of Harvey at the moment. Newly proposed high-density development impacting amenity for residents in an existing low-density estate. So basically there's an estate with larger blocks, and they're going to drop a whole bunch of high-density housing right on the edge of it, and it requires travelling through, all those people that travel through the area, the low-density area, to get to the high-density area.
Yeah, I mean, the sad fact about this sort of thing is it's something that the local councils and local governments are going to be railroaded into doing regardless of how you vote. This is because it comes primarily from the mass immigration program that the federal government does to basically keep the Ponzi scheme running of the central bank system, and basically printing money as debt and requiring more and more debt to pay the interest on the loan of the previous debt. So what can be done about this? I won't know until I get there. I suspect it will be very, very difficult to change things at the local level. It's just something that we will be able to have a bigger voice from, to object from the local level. Every person who is living in this country, especially the ones who were here, 50, 60 years ago, should have had the right to decide who comes into the country, but they never were given that right. And it has all kinds of negative consequences, but it requires a national solution to this. It requires an international solution to this. I mean, this is at the heart of the World Economic Forum plan. And so, do I generally oppose high density? Yeah, absolutely. Is there going to be absolutely monumental pressure on everybody and likely legislation forced upon local councils that you can't say no to? Probably. But you've got to start the fight back somewhere.
All right, fantastic. That's a very good and interesting response. One that's happening in Busselton at the moment. There's been a fair bit about restricting dog access on beaches, in particular in Busselton. What's your angle on this?
Yeah, there should be some beaches at least where people who don't like dogs can walk and not be accosted by them. How restrictive, I don't know. Dogs. I've got on my local beach in Broadwater. There's a lot of dogs running around. Generally, they're okay. I think it's mainly more perhaps in the tourist season where we need to get a bit have a bit more control over the issue when there's more people and more dogs. I think in off season, generally, live and let live works pretty well in this shire. But that'll be something that I would have to look more deeply into, because it's not something that's affected me or people who have spoken to me much about at this point.
Fantastic, thank you. Several local businesses applying to extend sidewalk dining areas.
It depends on, as long as people can walk past without tripping over chairs and tables, then there generally shouldn't be an issue with that. It's more of a question of, people who are not in those businesses, can they continue walking easily? If the answer is yes, then there should be no reason why a chair and a table can't be out on the sidewalk. If the answer is no, well, the public have a right to be able to walk down the street without tripping over a chair or getting run over by a car. So that would be situational.
All right, fantastic. And this one also happened to happen in Harvey, actually. So a sporting group that leases council-owned facilities applies for funding to expand their kitchen and dining facilities up to a commercial-grade kitchen.
And does the ratepayer pay for it, I assume is the question.
Well, they'll come to the council for funding as well.
For funding, yes. So, again, that depends on how much money. It depends on, that can't be answered in isolation, because the council already has, a whole bunch of stuff that it's giving out money to. I know that the art centre in Busselton is still sucking up millions and millions of dollars. So I will be prudent with money, and I am more inclined to look at things that help local residents than I am to help build the majesty of the tourist impression when they come in here. I think in terms of priorities of money, you look after the residents first, and then you look at what money's left over to do grandiose things like art centres and stuff. So, look, sporting clubs do have a good, solid, and important role in the community, but money is money, and local councillors and politicians generally love to just throw it around, and I'm not the kind of person who just throws it around.
All right, fantastic. Those are the scenarios I have for that question. The next thing I wanted to look at was the Shire or city, in this case the city, seeks to increase economic activity within its borders. How might you propose for the city to facilitate the growth?
I wouldn't propose too much, to be honest with you. Generally, it's more about the government getting out of the way than it is about doing things to boost. Generally, when it does things to boost, it just wastes money. So it's more of a case of people who have ideas that are reasonable to boost things or put local events on. It's just a case of trying to make that process for those people as easy as possible, as opposed to the council having grandiose plans to go out and do lots of stuff. So I'm more of a libertarian in that regard. Because it's just too easy for the government to waste money. So, it's more about cutting red tape than it is about spending the ratepayers' money.
Okay, that's a fair call. The next question, if you had come up with ways that the council would need to spend money, that would be the next question, was where would the money come from? So you're looking at cutting red tape, so that would be reducing regulation or speeding up processes through the existing processes. So That
and
probably wouldn't
also
have any.
it might also mean that a few people in government have to go and look for another job. There's a lot of government employees that I find are doing things that really aren't necessary. But how bad or good that is in Busselton Council, I won't know until I'm actually looking at the books. But generally, most government organisations, whether local council, state or federal, tend to be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of people, many of which aren't particularly doing anything useful or giving much back to the community. A lot of people are, I'm going to get, obviously, as soon as you say something like that, you have, hundreds of people complaining, oh, he's going to, sack all the jobs and we're going to have no services. No. There are a lot of people who give very good services in government, a lot of people who do very good jobs. But that doesn't mean to say that there aren't savings to be made. Where they are in Busselton, I'm not going to know that unless I get elected and go through the books and see what we're spending the money on.
All right, fair call. Now, the next one, I've got about 5 different items here that seem to run through councils from time to time. Now, you don't need to explain necessarily about what the things are that we look at here, but your position could be as simple as you support it or you don't support it. So let's have a look at what we've got here. So the first one is drag queen story time in our libraries.
Completely and utterly opposed. I will fight tooth and nail to stop it.
Okay. Welcome to and acknowledgement of country.
Communist takeover, absolutely opposed to it. We'll fight it tooth and nail.
Okay. Biasing purchases made by the council towards local businesses.
Situational. There is a case for it, but at the same time, the council needs to be aware of what money it's spending, and it needs to make sure that the local businesses do have at least some form of competitiveness. That said, supporting our local businesses is important. So, yeah, depends on the business, it depends on what people outside the local area are offering, and just how much of a discrepancy there is between what the local business is charging and what somewhere else is charging. But it's something that has to be weighed very carefully, because even if a local business charges more for something, the benefits of having that local business in the council might have intangible or unseen financial benefits for the community and for the council. So that has to be weighed up.
All right, that's a fair call. The Shire buying or selling land and properties within the Shire.
Have to look into that one. No one's really brought that subject up with me, but so I'll pass on that one.
All right, fantastic. That's the suite of questions that I have for you, Stephen. Is there anything more that you'd like to cover?
No, that's been a very fair interview and very interesting interview.
I've been looking around at councils a little bit since the federal election, actually, and the questions I'm asking here basically come from the types of things that I've been seeing. Had a bit of a look at the regulations, the Act, actually, the Local Government Act. There's a whole suite of acts. I've got all sorts of things I've got to take into account, but looking at the main things that are determining what a council is and what a council and a councillors are supposed to be actually doing and going about it. Oh, actually, I've got one more there, just seeing that. Sorry about that, I was going off a little too quickly there. One of the elements of being a councillor is about using evidence to make decisions within the council. So this question, your position on when the evidence presented is not the full story.
Yeah, and that's generally a big issue in our society at the moment. So whatever issue is coming up, I think it's the responsibility of people in government to dig deeper. I'll use the COVID as an example. There are many politicians now who are saying they just didn't know. Well, I'm sorry, I knew, and I'm nothing special. And occasionally not knowing borders on criminal negligence. And, we all make mistakes, and there are always going to be times where we don't get the full story. But I think especially if it's a really important issue that affects, like in COVID, life or death decisions, or affects, for example, the wind turbines, which will affect the bay for, decades to come. It's incumbent upon people you elect to not just take everything at face value and accept the evidence that is given as true or correct. It's incumbent upon the elected officials to do what the bureaucrats can't do. Because a bureaucrat, they have a list of sources that they are officially allowed to look at. You have your official sources, and a government bureaucrat can only look at an official source. He has a job to do. He has a responsibility. He can't just be taking fringe theories and making policy with it. That's not his job. That's our job. It's our job to look at the mavericks, and our job to assess them, and our job to look at the official narrative and the official reports and question them, and really grill down and make sure that we're dealing with honest people and we're dealing with people who know what they're talking about. So, that's just something that all politicians should be made aware of. Your job is not to rubber stamp things. Your job is to question everything. Your job is to really, really put the coals to the toes and the feet to the fire and make sure that the people you deal with are honest and know what they're talking about, and that there aren't other people with better evidence than what you're being presented with.
All right, that sounds a very logical and well thought through answer and position. Thank you, Stephen. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there. Excuse me. It would be fantastic if our listeners could share the various streams that we have. If you look there, you'll see that there are options for YouTube, Facebook and Rumble. I'll put those down in the description for this episode and in the posts. And you can get emails about when things are happening on Forrest.Chat SoapBox. You could go to Forrest.Chat SoapBox in your web browser and simply sign up for the emails there. There's a couple of things that I do that you can sign up there. And on Facebook, particularly, if you could make a comment underneath this episode and use the @highlight functionality. So it actually looks like this. You can see it there. It comes up and you just type the ampersand and highlight, and that will ensure that the message gets spread further. So that's great to do. I do have a transparency statement. Some people have asked why I'm doing this, and I have actually put that out there. So if you go on to one of those streams, you will find that video. It's the first one in the playlists, and you can jump in and read all about that. I also have done an overview of this series of interviews with candidates for the 2025 local government elections. So you'll be able to find that in the playlists as well. Excuse me, that introduction video, actually the description for the post is actually a transcript, so you can read it instead of watch if you prefer. To help us carry on with doing these SoapBox live streams, there is a fair bit of cost involved, and I would really appreciate if you have the opportunity to donate. Now, in the transparency statement, you'll see that I do not accept donations where there are any conditions applied. So if you're donating, and that's all you're doing. So if you are in a position to do that, even if it's 10 or 20 or $100 or $1,000, that's fantastic. You go to PayPal and pay it to hello@Forrest.Chat, or if that doesn't suit you, just get in touch with me at that hello@Forrest.Chat email address. All right. And thank you very much, Stephen. It's been enlightening to talk to you and hear your perspective and how you want to actually go about being a councillor with the City of Busselton, sorry. Almost moved you.
Or upgraded me, or downgraded me, depending on where you live.
That's it. I'm not going to pick sides on that argument. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stephen. And listeners, if you could share this video, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Righto, I have